We are fast approaching the 100-year mark since the Great Depression of 1929. It remains the worst nightmare in modern economic history. Banks failing en masse, soup lines, and a decline in worldwide GDP by over 15%. For context, look back at the 2008 financial crisis, or even the pandemic shock of the early 2020s. While they caused inflation and supply chain fractures, the drop in global GDP was only a few percentage points. Clearly, 1929 was in a league of its own. Many students of history will say, "Oh, the solution to the Great Depression was simple. World War II. On paper, it makes sense. World War II broke out, factories sprang up, armies hired millions, and governments threw budgets out the window. It was the biggest stimulus package in history. This war economy logic persists even now in 2026. The US remains the world's largest economy and holds the largest military budget on the planet. But the question begs, is war actually a good driver for the economy in the digital AI-driven era of 2026? If it worked in the 1940s, why shouldn't we do it now? Let's start with how governments measure economic health, GDP, inflation, and especially unemployment. In 2026, the definition of employment is looser than ever. If you work 1 hour a week for a delivery app, or pick up a small freelance gig via an AI platform, congratulations, you are employed. Unemployment figures are often massaged to serve political ends. And the quickest way to fix those numbers? Hiring in the public sector, specifically the military. In many countries, the military is not just a defense force. It is a form of giant social welfare. It employs hundreds of thousands of young people, those who might otherwise struggle to find work. In a labor market increasingly automated by robots and AI, the military provides a paycheck, skills training, and healthcare. But here is the issue: cash flow efficiency. Let's look at a breakdown of a 2026 defense budget. Only about 1/4 goes directly to personnel wages. 1/3 is used for operations and maintenance. The vast majority of the rest goes into procurement and R&D, autonomous drones, cyber defense systems, and hypersonic weapons. Many will argue, but that money still flows to defense tech corporations, and they pay their employees, right? True. But think like an economist. The government could pay that same money directly to green energy corporations, or civil infrastructure projects to create an equivalent or even greater number of jobs. Funneling tax money to defense contractors is essentially a form of corporate welfare wrapped in the guise of national security. If you look exclusively at GDP figures, you will see a spike during wartime. The government spends money making tanks, drones, and missiles, and then spends more money rebuilding bridges destroyed by bombs. This is a classic example of the broken window fallacy. If you throw a brick and break a bakery's window, the baker pays the glazier $200 to fix it. GDP goes up by $200. The glazier has a job. Is this good? No. Because if the window hadn't been broken, the baker could have used that $200 to buy a new suit or upgrade his shop. Society would have had both a window and a suit. Now, society only has the window restored and has lost the value of the suit that was never produced. War is effectively breaking windows on a global scale, creates paper growth, but in reality it is asset destruction. What is the ultimate purpose of an economy? It is to satisfy consumer needs and improve the quality of human life. Military jobs, while vital for security, do not create consumer economic value. An AI engineer working for the military to program attack drones cannot use that time to develop AI for cancer diagnosis or optimizing smart grids. A factory producing artillery shells cannot produce electric vehicles or semiconductor chips for smartphones. This is a waste of the highest quality human resources. Brilliant minds and expensive years of training are diverted into creating machines of destruction rather than improving life. And the greatest tragedy: when soldiers or workers die in war, that is a permanent loss of human capital that no economy can ever recover. A common argument: war drives technology. The internet, microwaves, and GPS all came from the military. True, but that is a 20th century story. In 2026, the private sector is the engine of innovation. Large language models, LLMs, mRNA technology, or reusable rockets, these were largely driven by market competition and consumer demand, not military orders. If billions of dollars in military R&D had been funneled directly into medical research or clean energy from the start, we would likely be far ahead of where we are now, rather than just waiting for the technological side effects of war. Let's go back to the original question. Why did the US get rich after World War II? It wasn't because war created wealth. It was because the US was the only one left standing. While factories in Europe and Japan were reduced to rubble, American industry remained intact and became the workshop of the world. They established the global financial order, Bretton Woods, and exported goods to a rebuilding world. Today, in the globalized economy of 2026, supply chains are tightly interwoven. A war anywhere breaks the supply of chips, energy, and data, hurting everyone involved. No one can stand on the sidelines and benefit absolutely like the US did in 1945. Most modern economists agree, peace is the biggest dividend. We need a military for sovereignty, that is undeniable. But we must never confuse security necessity with economic gain. War, by its nature, is the destruction of capital, labor, and opportunity. True prosperity comes from creating new value, not from destroying what exists and building it back up.